You know I love you, buddy.
Oh, definitely. Right back at you.
All right, it's 11 o'clock, and I want to honor people's time. So, Everett, why don't you kick us off here and let us know what's going on in your neck of the woods and what's happening?
Absolutely. Yeah. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Everett. I'm with Bond Street Mortgage. We're one of the in-house lenders. So the biggest question I've been getting over the past couple of days, as you guys can imagine, is the agents and clients calling me about the Mortgage Relief Act that came out. Um, Unfortunately, we can only guide them to their servicer because we have nothing to do with that. So what I let them know, and I want all you guys to know, if you guys talk to your clients or your clients reach out to you guys, is that whoever's servicing the loan, whether it's somebody like Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Flagstar, whoever, they have to reach out to them and find out what kind of guidelines and what the steps are in order to get that kind of relief, and tell them to make sure they make the payments until they get granted that relief. Because if they miss a payment, they're not going to retroactivate that. So that missed payment is going to stick, and you're going to get hit with a late payment on your credit report. And that is essentially going to make your credit shot for the next couple of years.
So let me ask you a question here around that. If somebody's really behind the eight ball, can they make a partial payment and at least not get that ding?
So that's what they have to talk to their servicer about. So that's one of the things that they can either, what we're reading, because it's still very vague on what they're letting out to the public still, as you guys know, is like some of them are going to have 3 months that they can push back, some 6, 9, 12 months. Some might have partial payments. So each servicer is doing it differently. So whoever's servicing it, they have to call them and find out what kind of stipulations they have in place, because unfortunately, even if they close with like Bond Street Mortgage, whatever services are underneath us that we sell off to, that's who we would point them to at the end of the day. So they're going to have to talk to those representatives there, and that they're going to let them know what they have to do in order to do it. Now, the one good thing is that even if you don't have you weren't infected with the coronavirus, is that even if you got loss of job, even if it's temporary loss of job, they don't have to verify that right away. So they will allow you, if they grant you that relief, they will verify that after that. So it's not like it's going to take a month in order for it to take into effect. If they say, all right, yeah, we're going to just give us whatever information you need, we're going to verify in the upcoming weeks, they'll let that payment, whatever kind of plan they have, go into place right there and then once they grant you that. So that's one of the good things about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you guys are taking notes here, because as you're having your conversations in your spheres and even in your neighborhoods, I mean, this is really important information to be able to guide people too, in terms of what to expect and who they need to be talking to right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm still happy, even if they have other questions, or if you guys have questions, definitely don't hesitate to reach out, because I'll let you guys know. Unfortunately, I won't be able to give you rock solid answers, but I'll be able to point you or your clients in the right direction on who they have to talk to.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then another thing too, as you guys can imagine, appraisals have been something at the top of everyone's mind. So Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, the two biggest servicers, they've updated their guidelines to where that we're still going to, first and foremost, if the seller and the appraiser are good with it, we're still going to try to get interior appraisals, because obviously those are most rock solid. But Fannie and Freddie are allowing us to do drive-by appraisals as well. So if there's somebody in the house is sick, or if they're not comfortable, they'll be able to do that. And then, of course, we're also still trying to get appraisal waivers when we run it through the desktop underwriter. That way we won't even have to do an appraisal. I actually got one yesterday. It was my first one on a purchase in quite some time. And it was sad on how excited I got about it. But I was pretty pumped up once I saw it, once I got these findings and it said no appraisal is needed. So that's definitely something. So appraisals are taking place. There might be a little bit different coming up, but they're still taking place. So there's not going to be any delays on that, thankfully.
Okay. Terrific.
Yeah.
What other questions do you guys have? If you want to just, raise your virtual hand and we can unmute you, or maybe Chris, maybe we should unmute everybody for a minute here and see if we can.
You know what I said? I've never had a girl hit me in my life. And look what scratch me like that. Look what you did.
All right. So maybe unmuting people wasn't a great idea. All right. Well, Everett, I appreciate all you do for us, man. Thank you for the information today. You guys all know how to reach him. And so if you have any other questions for him directly, please reach out to him after.
In the chat, I'll put my contact information again, just so everyone has it. I'll give my cell and my email, so that way you guys can reach out to me whenever you guys need anything.
And I think Chris just posted that if you guys do have any questions, just throw them up into the chat box, and we'll unmute you at that part. Right, Chris?
Yep, that'll work. Or you can raise your hand.
You know how to do it.
Yeah, and
All
I just
right.
posted my contact information in the chat. So if you guys need anything, definitely don't hesitate to reach out.
All right, man. Thank you.
Guys, got it, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
See you later.
Later, Chris.
All right, guys. So I want to, talk a little bit about kind of how you stay on point right now in terms of really kind of thinking about how do I shift in terms of my learning needs right now. We're all sort of hunkered down here at home. And to some extent, there's an opportunity to get to all those different things that we've been wanting to do and meaning to do, but we've never had a chance to do. I'm hearing a lot of folks who are having cleaner basements than they've seen in decades, and attics and such. But one of the things that I know that happens is there's a lot of information coming at you right now. And I know that there's a lot of training that's coming at you that we are pushing to you through lots of virtual classes and virtual links. And I think, it's really important right now to understand that it can be a little bit of a fire hose of information because everything is moving so quick right now, right? Everything's moving so quick on the health front. Everything is moving so quick on the legal front. What can we do? What can't we do? What does the governor's order say? What does it really mean? Everything is changing on best practice in terms of how do we engage folks and try to keep our businesses running. But the thing I want you to just remember is, these two shifts have been coming for a while. There's two shifts that we're experiencing right now that have been in the works for a while. It's just that this virus has really ratcheted up the timetable and brought those here a whole lot faster. And one of them was simply a market shift, right? We have been pretty much going on 10 to 12 years of relatively bull market here in the housing world. And what we know is that markets shift all the time. When Gary wrote Shift the first time, one of the things that he talks about is you always have to be doing your business in the market that you're in, but anticipating the shift in terms of how I have to adjust and how do I have to be getting ready. I think there's a kind of a great Wayne Gretzky quote that says, a good hockey player skates to where the puck is. A great hockey player skates to where the puck is going to go. And so we knew that a shift was coming, not just in the market. It had to come. Housing cycles always go through shifts. The other shift that came quicker than we thought, in many ways, was the impact of the technology shift. We as a company have recognized that the technology shift has been out there, and we've been kind of leading the curve in terms of really giving you guys the technology tools and being a tech company as much as a real estate company. But I'm here to tell you that having people working from home in the last 2 weeks has really forced the curve in how comfortable people have had to become with platforms just like the one we're talking on right now. And what I can guarantee you is that when the market recovers, and it will recover, I said yesterday that if you really think about market collapses or market stops, this is more like 9/11 than it is like 2008. 2008, the housing market came to a dead stop because the world economy came to a dead stop. And that happened because of some really flawed fundamentals in the housing market, right? And that took us 10, 12 years to dig out of, right? This is more like 9/11, right? The housing market, the world economy was okay. It turned upside down because of an external factor that was outside of anyone's control. And what we saw in 9/11 is everything stopped for about 45 or 60 days, and then it picked up again. And this is going to be more like that. But what I can tell you is when it picks back up again, the new world order is going to be different. People have become so comfortable using technology platforms that the way that we conduct our business is going to change. It will go back to a new normal that will obviously not be 100% virtually based because we are still a very people-oriented business. But virtual is going to hold a much bigger market share than it ever did before, right? So one of the things that we've got to be thinking about is how do we get comfortable in these virtual platforms? How do we get comfortable using these tools? Because agents who can learn and adapt the quickest are the ones who are going to recover the fastest. And agents who don't learn how to adapt into this technology platform or this new technology world are going to get left behind, right? What we see in every market stoppage is that when the market recovers, there's a loss of agents. We saw 300,000 agents leave the market in 2008. And we're already starting to see some agents who are thinking that maybe the real estate market isn't the place to be right now. That's not what I want anyone on this call to be thinking, because we just have to be thinking about how to get through these next couple of months and how to position ourselves so that when we come out, we're really ready to go. So that's the backdrop that I wanted to start this conversation with. You know, I posted something last night on the Bergen County Partners page, and it was from a friend of mine, Sean Rawls. Anyone who has been around Bergen Partners or Keller Williams for maybe more than, I'm going to guess 7 or 8 years. I don't know how many folks that is besides me on this call right now. But Sean was actually our very first regional director. He was Michael Brand before Michael Brand was Michael Brand. And I posted a video of Sean talking a little bit about this in terms of the technology disruption and how it is a blessing for us in a lot of ways to learn how to become more effective and more efficient at what we do in more of a virtual way. So if you haven't seen that video I posted on Bergen Partners last night, go back and watch it. It's about 10 minutes of Sean. If you don't know his name, go Facebook friend him. He is one of the most insightful and inspiring people that I've met in my lifetime. He's the guy who actually hired me to be a team leader when I first came to Keller Williams. But I would encourage you to watch that. All right, so that is a backdrop. Here's what I want to talk about. I'm going to share my screen here. I'm going to try to share my screen because I'm learning these tools as much as everybody else is. So if I share my screen here like so, and if I can go to my KW page, can everybody see my KW page? Just give me a quick thumbs up, anybody, if you can see that. All right, cool. So here's the thing we got to think about is there's a lot of information coming at us, and there's a lot of information coming quickly. The first thing that we've got to start to think about is how do we adapt in a virtual model? I will also say that at 2:30 today, I'll be meeting with your team leaders, and we'll be starting to sketch out the training calendar for next week. And I'm going to really do everything I can to make sure that we have some training out there in terms of how to use these technology platforms as a host. It's one thing to be a watcher on a virtual conference like this. It's another thing to learn how to use the tools to host. Again, quick show of hands for those who have their cameras open. How many people have ever hosted a Zoom conference themselves with this channel that they own? Okay, terrific. We're going to do some more training on how to do that effectively, because for the next few weeks, this is the model, and I'm going to share with you some ideas of things in the upcoming days in terms of how to use these platforms. But the thing we've got to start to figure out is, what do I need to learn and what do I not need to learn right now? Because there's so much coming at you right now in the fire hose of learning that it can be really overwhelming. One of the things that happens to folks when they join Keller Williams is, and I don't think we always appreciate this that much, there is so much that comes at you when you join this company in terms of learning new technologies, in terms of learning new systems, in terms of learning new platforms, that I hear time and time again, agents just say, oh my God, it's like a fire hose, I'm drowning here. Has anybody experienced that besides me? Raise your hand. Okay, I got you. The truth is, we control the fire hose, right? And so we can decide how we approach our learning. What do we need to learn right now, and what do we not? You know, Jay Papasan said on a Zoom call the other night that I was on, you know, we've got to figure out in a shifting market, what is the most important thing that I have to get right? And what's the most important thing that I have to get right now, right? And right now, what we need is the right plan, right? We need the right plan, and that's going to have, you know, be a part of what do we need to learn. So here's the thing I'm going to walk you through. I want to show you a tool. I'm going to work my way to a page from the new Ignite 2.0 that I'm going to use as a stepping off point to this conversation. For those of you who can get to this KW page, and if we have folks who are on this call who are not KW folks, which we sometimes do, that's all cool too. But here at the very top is the education page. And if you click on the education page, it will take you to Keller Williams University. Now, did you notice this here? It's time to pivot, join the movement. I am going to really encourage you to click on this link. And right now, my chat box or my visual box, maybe I can move it there. I can move it. If you click on this link, it's going to take you to the streaming page for the KW Shift ahead pivot page. Al has sent this link out a couple of times and asked you guys to join this. I'm going to really encourage you to join this as a source of information. There is a daily stream right here that is sort of a morning motivation right here, which is what this one is. And then there's scheduled streams here as well. I want you to just join that page because I think there's some good information there, right? Now, I'm going to go back, though, to my KW page. When you're here, I'm going to go down here. This is what we call Keller Williams University. I'm going to bring you back to this courses page in a minute, but do you see right here where the puppy is, where it says Ignite 2.0 Labs, right here? I want you to click on this. This is the new Ignite. So Ignite, anybody who did Ignite with me last month in Woodcliff Lake, we started to play in this new Ignite. It's a brand new version of Ignite that's been updated. And what you're going to find here is when you get to this Ignite page and you scroll down a smidge, you're going to get to the participant resource guide, right? I want you to click on this resource guide for a second. And these are all the different courses. Ignite going forward is broken into two elements. We call the first one Sparks, which is all the fundamental skills that you need to learn in terms of your business, right? And then Elements, which are all the fundamental skills that you need to learn in terms of running a business. So on the Spark side, we've got things like setting your goals, delivering your value proposition, finding and working with buyers and sellers. On the Elemental side, we've got things like consultations, open houses, marketing and prospecting strategies. I would really encourage you to look at this Ignite foundational course right now. This is really kind of state of the art, but where I want to bring you today is right here to where it says Fuel Your Career. And it just takes you to the download. This is just a handout for the course, the manual, if you will. And if you scroll through to probably page maybe 3 or 4, let's see if I can do it here. I hope I can. I might have to download it to do it. Give me a second. I'm going to try to download this and open it up as a PDF. Now I can scroll. Here's what Gary Keller says right here. I want to get to this page. What do successful agents do every day? You know, at the end of the day, when markets shift, when markets change, the foundations of business don't change. And that's a really critical thing to remember. When things turn upside down, what's fundamentally true about how businesses work do not change. The way we do them has to change, right? So if you look, what successful agents do every day is two things. They work on growing their business and they work on running their business. That's kind of it, right? That's kind of it. And so one of the things we've got to start thinking about right now is what do I need to learn to be able to maintain these two things right now in this shifted reality? What are the skills that I have to develop so that I can continue to grow my business, and we'll unpack each one of these? And what are the things I need to learn how to do so that I continue to run my business? And right now, there's so many different things coming your way and being pushed through the fire hose that what I'm going to tell you is you don't need to chase every link that comes from training right now. What you really need to do is you need to focus on the most important things. I'm going to go back to the focusing question of the book, The One Thing, right? What's the one thing that I can do such that if by doing it would make everything else easier or unnecessary, right? So we're going to be focusing on these two elements right now. Now, I'm going to take a step back though for a second, because we do have to understand that there's a new toolkit in play, right? There's a new toolkit in play. And one of the things that we do have to be thinking about, in addition to the traditional growing your business and running your business, is how do I master the new tools, right? How do I master Zoom video? How do I feel comfortable opening it up, hosting a meeting, sending a meeting link to someone, learning how to share my screen with someone so that we can continue to do business? I'm here to tell you, I was on the coaches call this morning with John and Mike, and it was the Power Hour call that we do in the mornings. And I can tell you, there's an agent, right, maybe even on this call right now, but Kim, who's in Fort Lee, I believe, has put 4 appointments together this week, and she's done it all through Zoom. And she's done it sending docs and getting docs signed virtually and showing things through Zoom. Knowing this toolkit right now and learning how to use Zoom so that you can continue to communicate with folks and keep the conversations happening is an important toolkit that we have got to master right now, right? That's got to be top on the list, is learning how to use that tool. Second tool, and this guy right up here, at least in my screen, Chris, the second tool is command. We have got to learn how to use command. It is here for you to really streamline your business. We knew that this disruption in technology was coming. We've been preparing for it all along. Working from home has really, really shifted that curve. And now we've got to learn it faster, right? So I would encourage you to take a look at all the command training that's out there. But I want you to be clear about what training you need right now and what training can wait, right? If you do not have, if you don't have any leads to work with yet, you know, learning how to put opportunities together is probably not as important as learning how to start to fill your funnel through Facebook ads and some other things, right? I want you to really start to think about what is the need in my business right now, and what is the command training that I can take first and prioritize and take first, so that I can get that first step in the ladder and then build to the next one, right? I remember years ago, I used to do evening training in Ridgewood. I used to come to Ridgewood every Wednesday night at 7, and we did some training classes. And I remember one time doing a class on listing presentations. And I had a bunch of dual career agents that would come in, and we would get together, and we were going to talk about listing presentations. And the question that I asked people is, how many of you guys have ever done a listing presentation? And the room was saying, no, we're excited to learn. And I said, how many of you guys have ever scheduled a listing appointment? No, but we're excited to learn. How many of you guys have ever talked to a client? No, but we're excited to learn. Time out. If you've never had a conversation with a client, learning how to master your listing presentation is a skill that you don't need to master today. What you need to learn how to master is how do you talk to a client, right? So the thing I want you to be thinking about is, where is your business right now? What is the foundational need that you have? What's the one thing that you could do such that by doing it, everything else would be easier or unnecessary? And I want you to start to think, is it leads? Is it master? Is it getting more leads in the funnel? Because that's a different set of command classes. That's classes that are going to be talking more about, you know, social media and social posting and how to build relationship. And I love all the things that we can do with paid ads and to get people through Facebook contact pages into your funnel. I threw a video that I made in my kitchen, you know, about 6:30 in the morning a couple days ago onto the BCP page about how to do a quick search in your MLS and find only those listings in your target market that have virtual tours available, and how to use that link through your Facebook paid ads and run an ad into your market that says to find only those homes that have virtual tours that you can preview. Click here, right? Learn more. And you go back and watch that video, because if that's your need right now, is to get people into your funnel, that's the focus of command. If you've got things in the funnel and you're trying to figure out how to shepherd them through, it's different things in command. So first thing is kind of know what your need is right now, right? But the toolkit that we've got to master Zoom, we've got to master command. Chris, where are we with DocuSign?
So DocuSign, we have it. We are still working on getting kind of like the implementation of it, but you could start using it now. We're still using .loop, and DocuSign and .loop can be used pretty much at the same time, but I'm going to say probably, you know, I'm going to be doing a lot more training on DocuSign to kind of ramp up the
shorten that learning curve, because we're going to drop off of the other pretty soon. Am I correct?
Yeah.
At some point in the future.
So I'm hoping to get everybody on it before the summertime.
Okay. Cool. All right. So that's another thing. Watch for those trainings on just making sure that you're up to speed on DocuSign, right? The 3 big tools in the toolkit right now: Zoom, Command, DocuSign. Those are the ones I'm going to ask you to focus on this week and next. And again, 2:30 this afternoon, I'll be meeting with your team leaders. We'll start to sketch out the calendar going forward. So we'll try to make sure that we've got a lot of the right stuff in front of you right now, right? Okay, I want to go back here though, because I want to go back to grow your business. Lead generating with buyers and sellers. There are places where you can go to learn, how do I change my lead gen strategy right now, right? And how do I adjust it into a virtual world? That video that I posted about how to use Facebook ads as a way of trying to capture some folks. The thing that we have to recognize is that this interruption in the market, this temporary timeout that will be time limited, did not change the underlying motivation of buyers and sellers. This is the freaking spring market. We have people that need to buy and sell real estate. And what we have to do in our lead generation is figure out, how do we find those people? How do we continue to attract those people in a way that is sensitive to the changed reality? This is not the time to go out there with a lead generation model looking for buyers and sellers that says, mortgage rates are at an all-time low, this is a great time to buy. I think that's a little tone deaf right now. All of that is true. All of that is true. And I'm looking to see what I can invest in right now, because I'm a big fan of Warren Buffett, who says the best time to buy is when other people have backed out of the market. If you can look at opportunities, this is a great time to get in. But there's still buyers and sellers that need to make this work. And so I think our ad copy, if we're going to go out there and do social ads, our scripts, if we're going to do circle calls, to the extent we can continue to do circle calls for now, has to be script that recognizes that these are uncertain times, that these are challenging times, and yet we know that your family may still have a need, and we have solutions, right? Our script always has to be solution-based. We've got solutions, let's have a conversation. If you are looking for strategies on how to change up your lead generation with buyers and sellers, I'm going to point you to KW on demand. And here's where you're going to find that. I'm going to take you back to your KW page. I'm going to try to move my Brady Bunch screen because you guys are beautiful, but you're right in the way of what I'm trying to watch. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to go to, once I'm in here, I don't know if I can always get back. KWConnect. Let's see. Let's see how far back it's going to let me go. I'm going to open it up in another browser, because once you get into they keep you sometimes. Stick with me.
Are you trying to find the live streams?
I'm trying to find KW University from here. I'm trying to find this page. Now, this is where the courses are. I'm going to come back to this in a second. There's KW University on Demand, which is right here. So I went to, just to kind of go through the breadcrumb trail again, I went to education. And from education, I went down to this box here that says KW on Demand. I want you to click on this. This is kind of a running stream of all kinds of stuff that's being posted in kind of real time. And it's uploads from agents, it's uploads from Keller Williams University, but virtually anything that you want to learn right now, you can find someone who is talking about it here on KWU on Demand. And you simply put in your search box what you're looking for. So let's talk about buyers, find buyers maybe. Let's just type it in. I haven't done this before, so maybe we'll find something good, and maybe I'll completely flame out. You never know on Zoom. But here's what's going to happen. You're going to find a lot of different stuff here, right? So for example, here's some scripts. How do you talk to a buyer who's saying, I think I need to hold off right now, right? There's some great scripts around that. Overcoming fears, overcoming buyers' anxieties right now, right? This is a video. Right, so KW On Demand, KW University On Demand is a really, really good resource for the most current places to find stuff. I'd encourage you to think about what's the need that I have, and I'd encourage you to go to KW University On Demand and start looking around. When you do search in here, what you're going to find is when you type in whatever you're looking for, you're going to be able to sort it here by video, by document type, right? Depending on what you're looking for and what your best learning style is, you're going to be able to sort that out here, okay? I'm going to go back here to what do successful agents do every day? Lead generate for buyers and sellers, make seller listing presentations and get listings. How many of you have got a listing presentation in some sort of a PowerPoint form that you could walk people through in a virtual reality like we're doing right now, as I'm going to get you in a Zoom room and go through a document on the screen? How many of you have a listing PowerPoint that you could use to do that if you had an opportunity? Quick show of hands. Okay, good. If you haven't, again, that would be something to think about putting together. Chris, we do have Right in Command, right? Don't we have some really good buyers and seller consultation guides that people can modify?
Yep, and I actually am planning on doing a class this coming Monday, how you can access and customize those.
Outstanding. Let's give it up for Chris. Everybody give Chris a big hand here. Woohoo! There's somewhere on your screens right there, there's a clap button. You could probably clap and make that work too. But you know what? You're going to have this, guys. And there's a buyer consultation, right, that's out there as well. You have to have that tool right now, because as you're having conversations and you find people who are motivated, who want to talk, this is going to be the platform in terms of how you're going to get them, right? So you're going to have to get that ready. We just fell down the stairs. I hope you're okay. Okay. What do other successful agents do? Make buyer presentations and get listings, right? We talked about those. Preview real estate. All right. Now, guys, in Ignite, one of the things that we talk about all the time is one of the foundational tasks that we've got to do is we've got to become masters of our market. If you are not previewing online into your MLS right now and doubling down and getting really clear about the inventory that's out there, so that when you do come across motivated buyers and sellers, you know this inventory and you can be conversant about it. You got to be doing that right now. We ask in Ignite that you preview at least 10 properties a day online. And we ask in Ignite that you preview at least 10 properties a week in person. Well, I'm not asking you to go out and preview in person right now. But I am asking you to, because we are so hunkered down inside, I'm going to ask you to ratchet up the number of listings that you preview online. And I'm starting to see in some markets that inventory is dwindling. What I am seeing in some markets is that people are taking their listings off for a while, which is okay, you know, if that's what they need to do to feel safe, which means that there's less to preview, right? But successful folks every day, this is what folks are learning how to do to grow their business. The thing I'm going to ask you to do is, what's your learning need that can keep you on point with those right now? Those have to come first, right? Growing your business is something that in a shifted market, we've got to continue to do to not just keep from falling backwards. You know, if you were to do the same thing and have the same amount of volume that you've always had in the past, what you're going to have to find right now in a shift is you're going to have to double the effort to get the same amount of traction that you'd always had. We've got to be talking to a lot of folks, and we've got to be adapting this way in order to do that, right? Now, running your business, market seller listings. How are you going to market seller listings right now? This is a time to really master the virtual open house, the virtual tour. How many of you guys have, you know, are comfortable doing that, right? Here's the challenge. You may not have listings right now that have virtual tours on them. You might not have listings at all. How would you show a home to a buyer who said, I'm really interested in 125 Main Street? How would you show a home right now to a buyer in a virtual world? Chris, maybe you can unmute folks. I don't know how to do it from my shared screen, but maybe you can unmute folks. And hopefully we don't have any chainsaws going back there. But I'd love to get some strategies on how are you going to show homes right now to your buyers when they call up and say, hey, I'm interested in a property still.
Just going to mute some people if you want to.
Maybe raise your hand and put something in chat that Chris can see, and he'll unmute you.
See anybody?
Nobody. All right, I'm going to give you some ideas, and I'm putting a video together on this, or maybe I'll do it as a class. That might be easier. One of the things that you can do in this environment is you can go and log into your MLS, right? And you can go into the media page that has all the pictures of a property that someone may be interested in, and you can share your screen just like I'm doing right now and go picture by picture by picture and talk to them as if you were walking through the house with them. Is it perfect? No, it isn't. But it gets you into the house with them and you at the same time. And the questions that I want you to be focusing on, and the way I want you to be thinking about this is not Vanna White. Look at this beautiful kitchen. They see the picture. What I want you to start doing is asking more probing questions that start to trigger forward emotional reaction, right? Could you see yourself questions are questions that I love. Could you see yourself cooking a meal in this kitchen? Could you see yourself entertaining in this dining room? Could you see your kids playing in this backyard? Because when you show someone a picture, there's a limited kind of an emotional reaction that they frequently have with that picture, but there's a psychological phenomenon that we call narrative transportation. It's the same phenomenon that happens is when you're watching a TV show or a movie or reading a great book, that you kind of get sucked into the moment. And when scary things are happening, you become scared. And when exciting things are happening, you become excited. It's just the way that your brain is wired. And what's required for that to work is for people to be pulled into the story. And so the conversations that I want you to have as you're showing homes in that virtual way are questions that sound like, could you see yourself? Because that's the invitation to get into the story. That's the invitation where they sort of teleport themselves into that space, look around, see what it looks like, and then determine, how does this feel? Do I like the way that this feels, right? That's what you're going to need to learn how to do. And learning how to master the skill of showing houses. We can still show inventory. We just can't leave our house, all right? That's a skill that I want you to learn how to master in the coming days, right? Negotiating contracts. Can we still do that online? Sure we can. Sure we can, right? Chris, DocuSign, all those tools, right? We can still get stuff done.
Yep.
This would be probably a great time if you've got buyers and sellers to share with them a copy of the contracts that will ultimately be used when the market frees up, right? Or when the time comes that we do put a contract together, and ask them to read through it. And then jump on a call with them, a Zoom call or a regular call, and just talk through, what questions do you have, right? What questions do you have, so that when the time comes that we can move forward, you're comfortable with this, right? You don't have any more questions. I am seeing right now, though, I talked to a couple of agents in our group just earlier this morning who put 3 deals together yesterday. And the way that we do it is we put together these deals in these virtual showing tours with contractual language that obviously gives them an out. It gives them, before the deal becomes fully binding, they get a chance to get in and see the house. And if it doesn't work, they get to back out. And the attorneys will write that language. That's not your language to write. It's the attorneys, right? But I am still seeing contracts put together by those kinds of virtual shows, picture by picture by picture, talking about it, asking questions about it, answering the questions that you can answer about it, which is why I want you guys learning, previewing, so that you can do that at a super high level, and then continuing to put contracts together, right? Transaction management to closing, vendor management, setting goals. These are all the skills of running an effective business. Corporate compliance, attending training and coaching, managing your money, right? These are all the things, right, that are out there that we've got to continue to do, even though the market has changed. So one of the tools, as you prioritize, what's the thing that I need now, right? The thing that I need now more than anything else is to take care of my people. The thing that I need now more than anything else is continue to talk to people and to continue to find motivated people who still haven't had a need change simply because the market shifted on them, right? And continue to fill that funnel. That is primary, right? And Beck, you were on the coaching call this morning. You guys got a great call in this morning with Coach Rob Daniels from Bold. Guys, if you have not signed up for Bold, what do they call it? Bold Pivot, I think right now at $99. You got to do it. It has been opened up to the public today. This is going to be closed probably sometime today.
No, he seemed really good, and I'm very excited to have him as a coach.
I did Bold a couple years ago with Rob as our Bold coach. I think I might have still been back in Montclair at the time. I don't remember as a team leader, but it was a tough Bold because we had some really, really severe weather. And there was a couple of times where Bold, I think Rob was in Minnesota or something like that. There were a couple of times when there was no air travel and he wasn't able to come out. But we didn't have the technology that we have now. And so what happened was, probably out of the 7 Bold sessions, Rob couldn't fly for 2 of them, and Bold got really choppy and distorted. The idea of doing this now in a virtual environment with Rob, who is hands down one of the best coaches in our company. He's Coach of the Year 3 times in a row with Maps Coaching. I mean, the guy is a rock star. So if you haven't signed up for that, do it. You for $99, even if you took $99 and put it in anything right now, that's the thing I put it in, right, for sure. But this is the thing I want you to look at. What are my needs right now in terms of growing my business? What are my needs right now in terms of running my business? If you're right now at a place where you don't have any transactions in the funnel, then transaction management isn't your thing. And when you see information that's coming or questions that are coming on how to shepherd things through the command portals on opportunities, whatever, that may not be your thing, right? You've got to focus on what your need is first and not let the fire hose drown you. Okay, going back up here to KW University, hopefully.
Hey, Hal, we have a question from
Bring it
Neville.
on.
Neville, you have a question? I'll unmute you.
Hi, Hal. How are you?
I'm awesome, Neville. How are you?
Good, good. When you were saying earlier about virtual showing the pictures and everything, I don't personally. I feel like if I found my buyer, it's very hard for me to buy a house just seeing the pictures. So if I don't believe in something, how am I gonna sell that house to my buyer?
You're probably not.
Yes.
And you're going to end up, and you're going to end up in a really tough financial spot because those people who can figure out how to wrap their heads around that are going to steal your lunch money. And I hate to be that blunt, but Neville, one of the things you have to understand that this isn't about your projected needs right now. This is about them. And what I'm telling you is that there are buyers out there that still need to buy. And you can't let your drunk monkey. I'm going to tell you the truth. I wouldn't want to buy a house without walking through it myself. I get
Yeah,
that.
I have to feel the house. I have to go in there and just have the feeling. I need to see myself, living in that house.
And so is it a perfect world? No, it's not right now. But the thing that we can do is if we can kind of get people to see these homes virtually and find a home that they can at least put a placeholder on. And that placeholder is to write up a contract with a caveat that nothing is finalized until they walk through it. And if they walk through it and they're like, oh my God, this isn't, because let's face it, guys, we put our best foot forward in our pictures, right? If a house has any flaws, that ain't what we're putting in there, right? How we show up online is always terrific. And then when you see it in real life, not always so good, right? If you don't believe that's true, just open up a Match.com account and play in that world for a little bit, and you will see that people do not always show up the way that they look on their pictures, right? My point is, Neville, it's not perfect, right? But I'm going to ask you to kind of put that belief, which is kind of your bias right now, and it's mine too. So I'm not being critical, but I'm just telling you that's something that you're going to have to pivot on, and just put that on the shelf right now, and look for folks who will be comfortable enough because they've got a need that's big enough that they can continue to move forward. And if folks aren't ready to move forward, then at least we're still engaging them. At least we're still having conversations. At least we're still showing properties and providing service, so that when this thing does open up again, we can go.
Yes, that I definitely agree with that. And I also saw Colleen share something on Facebook. If you can find a spouse online, you can find a house online. I really like that.
You can find a house online. And if you found a spouse and after being quarantined for 2 weeks, you think they need a different house, then you can do that too. There's all kinds of things we can do. Right?
Yes. So I really like that. I'm gonna use that probably.
You know what? Humor is a great thing right now. Keeping your sense of humor is a really good thing. I love that. Guys, I want to put you back.
But it's a time to adjust. I get it. I understand. But I have to believe in first to sell to other people.
I get that and I hear that. And what I'm going to ask you to do is, to the best of your ability right now, try to put some of that on the shelf for a little bit. Because you know what? It's just the same as when you're showing a house. One of the things we talk about with buyers is you're not buying it, so your opinion doesn't matter. Right. I can't tell you how many times when I've run real estate offices and I would talk to agents and I would hear about what's going on with their showings and things like that, and an agent comes back and they says, you know what, I had this couple, we looked at 125 Main Street, and boy, they really were interested in that house. And I said, super, so what's the next step? Are you gonna? No, we're not gonna write it up. I said, why not? Well, that's not a good house for them. The agent would tell me, they wouldn't be happy there. Trust me, I know that they would be not satisfied in a couple of years. Wait a second. You're not moving into that house, they are. if they've decided that it's something that they're willing to work with, and the same holds true, if a buyer is prepared to move forward in a virtual world with the right legal protections, we can't let our biases stand in the way of that, right? So I'm going to ask you to try to put that on a shelf as much as you can and recognize I share that same bias. I wouldn't want to do it. I wouldn't want to get married with somebody online that I never met in person, right?
Right.
All right. In the interest of time, guys, I want to go back to a couple of the resources here. Back to your Keller Williams University page where we found this labs Ignite. I would go into Ignite. I would take a look at those foundational skills. I'm going to bring you one more time because I wanted to show you one other thing that I forgot to show you. On the participants resources here, all of these elements are ones that I want you to take a look at. What's my biggest need right now, right? Is my biggest need to figure out what is my value proposition and how do I think about that? If my biggest need is to figure out how to find seller leads, I want you to take a look at that manual and use that information, and then let's talk about how to adapt that in a virtual world, okay? But I also want to point you to this toolkit right here because this is something I just want you to download where you don't need it specifically right now, but I want you to have it. Because when you download this toolkit, what you're going to find is all the great resources when you open it up. Let's see if I can do it here. Ignite Toolkit, all the great resources here that exist for you, checklists and listing presentation, script, and all kinds of stuff is down here, right? All kinds of walkthrough survey questions and things to ask as you're showing houses and things like that. Take a look at that toolkit, download that, get familiar with that. When the market opens up and we go out back in person, those things are going to be relevant. And some of those documents right now are going to also be things that are going to be adapted into a virtual world. So download that too, okay? Now, I'm going to back out. We've got about 10 minutes. I'm going to back out again here because I want to take you here to the Keller Williams University course catalog. Everything that we have in our KW University is right here. And the way, if you've not been in here before, the way that this is set up is each one of these boxes here represents what we call the landing page. And each one of these boxes represents a different class. So for example, here's Ignite, the old version. Here's Ignite, the new version. If there's a course that we do on the bottom here called Win with Buyers, Win with Sellers, this is Win-Win Negotiations. I want you to go, and once you've determined what's your priority need right now in terms of growing your business and running your business, and you ask that focusing question is, what's the one thing that if I learned how to do would make everything else easier or unnecessary? I want you to go back in here to the university and see if there's a course here that starts to address some of that, right? I'm not teaching these in a classroom. I am going to adapt Lead Gen 3612.3, which is listed in here. That launches on Monday, I believe. I'm going to adapt that. And we're going to teach that class in a Zoom conference environment. But this is where all of these classes are. And so if there's a learning need that you have, I bring you back here to see if there's a course that addresses it. And here's how you would do it. If I went to Win-Win Negotiations, for example, each one of these classes has, on the top here, all different tabs. Course Information tab describes what the course is. The Materials tab brings you to the downloads, okay? Now, what you're gonna find is, do you see how we have student files and we have instructor files? And you'll get both. You'll be able to download all the instructor files. There's nothing here that the instructors have that's some secret squirrel information here. The instructor material may have more things like the PowerPoint that you would use in class, and if you wanna take a look at that and see what information you can glean from that, that's great. When you look at these files, you're going to see the student manual here. You're also going to see where it says cover and back cover. That would actually be just the cover and the back cover. So if you want to print it out and put it in a binder, you could do it with a cover on it. You don't need that. You just download the actual PDF for that class. And this one is 157 pages long, you see right here. And you can go through and just do a little self-teaching around that, right? Quick show of hands if that would be useful for you guys to kind of take a look at some of those courses right now and see what's my learning need, where would I find that in KW University, how could I download the course and do a self kind of read through on that. I will be adapting some of these courses going forward into a Zoom environment, have my own Zoom channel And so we'll do more of that going forward, right? But that is another resource for your learning right now. The other thing that I want you to point you to is just recognize that there's a lot of other sources outside of KW that are really good. There's some other people out there that have got a lot of really good things to say. But I would encourage you to just keep in mind that who you follow right now matters. You know, Jim Rohn, who is a great personal development guy, no longer with us, unfortunately. He was Tony Robbins' coach back in the day when the great Tony Robbins was being coached by Jim. You know, Jim used to say, the direction of your life is the outcome of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, right? There's a little bit to that who you surround yourself with kind of creates the trajectory of where you're going, right? And who you listen to right now, and for your information, matters. There are a lot of voices out there. And quite honestly, there's a lot of people with a lot of good things to say, and there's a lot of people out there that don't have anything useful to say. How many people have ever been on some of the Facebook agent-facing groups that have lots of agents that ask lots of questions? There's my buddy Nick Baldwin has one called Lab Coat Agents. Some of you may be familiar with Nick. Nick was an agent of mine when we were back in Montclair. I jump on Lab Coat sometimes and I see people asking all kinds of questions. And I see people with lots of opinions. And one of the things that I know is that a lot of the opinions that people are saying are just crazy talk. A lot of the opinions are people who have never done a deal, who just are theoretically thinking about this stuff. Who you listen to matters right now, right? So I would stay close to the KW stuff because I'm really comfortable with what we put out there. But outside of KW, you know, I'm going to ask you to really think about some of the big voices in the industry, right? If you go into the Facebook world, you know, the pivot pages, the KW pivot pages are really good. I'm a big fan of podcasts, right? I don't know if you guys are podcast people, but I live about an hour, sometimes 2 hours away from where your offices are, depending on New Jersey traffic. And so I get to spend somewhere between 2, 3, 4 hours a day driving my car as I go back and forth to your offices. And I get to listen into a lot of podcasts. And there's some really good ones out there, right? A really good one right now is the One Thing podcast. Right? That's a KW podcast. It's a great podcast that talks about real estate and how to get your head right and what to do. Think Like a CEO with Gary and Jay is a great podcast, right? I'm also a big fan of some others. Pat Hyben is a friend of mine, and he's a former KW agent. At one time, Pat was the #1 Keller Williams agent in the world. At one time, Pat Hyben was the #1 RE/MAX agent in the world. And now in his late 40s, he is a very wealthy retired guy. And he has a great podcast and website called Pat Hyben Interviews Real Estate Rock Stars. That's a really good one. I love that podcast, right? And what I'd encourage you to do, guys, is start to explore and see what's out there. If you have some great podcasts that you know of, I'd encourage you to just drop some of those names right in the chat right now so that we can start to share that with each other. I can give you a shameless plug. I have a podcast. It's called Building Agent Careers. It's hosted on Spotify, Apple, and lots of different places. It's a shameless plug for my own podcast. I haven't updated that as much as I'd like to of late. I've been so buried in the last couple of months that I don't think there's been any fresh content on there in a while. But working from home right now gives me an opportunity to get that current. So there's the Building Agent Career podcast and website. You can go to either one of those and hopefully get some good stuff. But I'm also going to point you to a couple of things in the last few minutes that we have here. I'm a big fan of constantly learning. If you were on Al's call yesterday, and if you're not on Al's call, shame on you, yeah, right? Because Al's calls are really awesome. It's an opportunity for you, and I'm scolding you now, I can't believe it. But it's an opportunity to really get state-of-the-art what's going on in our marketplace right now. But one of the things that Al shared yesterday is just how important it is to keep learning and to keep growing. And he shared some of the great books that he likes to read. I'm going to give you a sneak peek on Gary Keller's reading list. If you go to, let me see if I reload that. If you just Google Gary Keller's reading list, you're going to find it's hosted on MAP's coaching page that you can access. This is what Gary Keller's recommending right now. These are some business books that Gary's reading. These are investing books that Gary's reading. These are some real estate investment books that Gary's reading. You want to see what is informing Gary Keller right now? This is his reading list. I sort of jump in on that, take a look at some of those titles, right? So in a couple of minutes that we have here, I'm going to back out of my screen here. I'm going to stop the screen share. And if you want to raise your hand virtually or in person, any questions, I'll take a look in the chat here.
Yeah, there's one from Lourdes.
Lourdes, lay it on. What do you got? If there's a contract already available with a protection for buyers representing an offer for virtually viewed homes, I do not believe that there is one yet that I'm aware of. That would be a great question to throw into Al's call at 3 o'clock. You know, when you start talking about changing contracts, you know, there was such a long battle between the real estate community and the legal community that went all the way to the New Jersey Supreme Court in terms of what the contract could say that agents could use and what they couldn't say. And as you may remember, that Supreme Court opinion, New Jersey Supreme Court opinion 26, is the thing that requires now the disclosure that we put onto the contracts as an attachment where we acknowledge that we're not attorneys. I don't know how much they're going to let us modify that contract in this short-term crisis, right? So my assessment is, Lourdes, I would think not, but I would believe that all of your real estate attorneys have got addendums rocking and ready to go. Again, another reason why we've got to be using our real estate attorneys and discouraging buyers from having their brother-in-law, the patent attorney, put this contract together. Not now, guys. We need a real estate specialist to put the right protections in this environment, right? Any other questions around that? Maybe you can have the attorney added, I see on here. Yeah, I think that's the way to do it, Andy. So look, guys, the takeaway, because we're going to have to jump off in a minute, the takeaway on this is this. There's a fire hose of information coming at us right now because everything is changing so fast. Just another word to the wise to avoid overstimulation. Unplug from the news a little bit, please. It's not helping you. Jump in with what you need to know, find a trusted news source, and get the information that you need, and then unplug. A lot of us are working from home with that running in the background. And I don't care what your favorite news channel is, but hearing that all day, every day right now is not helping you. It is creating more of a sense of overwhelm, which is what's making this such a challenge for so many of us. Get what you need and unplug. But what I'm going to encourage you to do is go back to that idea of what do I need to do to grow my business? What do I need to do to service my business? What's the one thing that I need to do first? And start to prioritize those learning needs. How do I adapt? How do I develop skills maybe that I never really developed yet in the first place? How do I master the key tools? Because when this market opens up again, virtual will own a much bigger share of it. And that to us is a really good thing because it makes us far more leveraged, right? So master command. You don't have to master all of command in one shot. It's like eating an elephant. Figure out what do you need to learn first. What's the need for my business? If I don't have anybody in my command database yet, I got to learn how to put them in before I learn how to manage a transaction, right? But once you prioritize that learning need and you sketch it out, here's the last thing I'd encourage you to do. Put it into your calendar. What's the goal this week? What's the goal next week, right? One of the things that we do in Bold, and you see I've got my Bold shirt on. I'm wearing my Bold shirt partly because it was clean and I'm working from home and I had it. But I also was going to be on a Zoom call this morning with my old Bold coach, Rob Daniels, and I didn't want him kicking my butt for not wearing my Bold shirt. But here's the thing. One of the first things that we do in Bold is we put together a learning plan, a growth plan, and we start to say, where do I want my life to get to? And what skills do I not have now that if I did have would make my life easier, and start to put those into a calendar. What's my January learning need? What's my February learning need? I'm going to compress that down right now, guys, into what's this week's learning need? What's next week's learning need? Okay? And then go back to those resource tools as a way of getting that done. Invest in virtual. Andy, you are spot on. Those are the tools. All right? Any last questions? It's 11:59. We're going to have to jump. I think the Zoom channel needs to be used by somebody else at some point. But what else? Questions do you have real quick that we could address? No other ones? It's just, you guys are just so on top of everything. I love being in front of this group because this is just the smartest group. And it looks like the biggest freaking Brady Bunch family right now on my screen. It's like it's like a Brady Bunch family. There was a TV show on years ago when I was a kid called The King Family. I'm dating myself right now, but it was this blended family of like 1 million kids. That's what it looks like right now on my TV. All right, guys. Hope that was useful for you today. We're here for you. If you need anything, reach out to me. We love you. We'll talk to you soon. Be on Al's call at 3 o'clock. Don't make me come get you.
Thanks, Hal.
All right, guys. Take care.